We are live talking about dinner.
That's right.
I had an unsatisfying dinner. I didn't like
Hmm.
it.
What did you have for dinner?
Cucumbers and ice cream. What
I
a
feel there's a,
strange dinner I had.
I feel there's a story there.
Not really. I just kind of was deciding what one of my dinners that I often have is cucumber with hummus and baby carrot with cheese. It's sort of like a vegetable plate. Just something I like. But tonight, my sister happened to get some of these Klondike bars. That's what they are. They're ice cream
Yeah.
with chocolate around them. And I was like, oh, I think I want one of those. And I was like, well, I can't have a full dinner if I'm going to have that ice cream. So I'll just have some cucumber. And I didn't even have the hummus with the cucumber. And it just didn't work. It was like,
Mhm.
The ice cream also wasn't very good ice cream. It's the first time I've had Klondike bars in a long time. It's not
Yeah.
particularly good ice cream. It's, eh.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, when people describe Klondike bars to me, I thought, no, that's it. So much appealing. No, I had a very good dish of fish and shrimp for lunch.
Ah.
Then I had a lot of alcohol throughout the afternoon, and then I had some nice pork bits for dinner with more alcohol. Yeah, this is gonna be a fun stream.
Good evening, Missing Mars. That just reminded me one of the observations. Oh, look, there's Chris Geruso.
Oh,
Good evening,
Look,
Chris.
look, look.
Whoa.
look, hey, Chris, I'm the one who had alcohol. What's wrong with your camera?
That's just my general incompetence. Nope.
And how are you this
No
evening,
performance
Chris?
enhancing drug not required.
Does alcohol count as a performance enhancing drug?
No, it does not enhance your performance.
Well, that depends on what type of performance you want to do. Because
Performances.
I've seen
not if your
stand-up
performance is
comedians.
athletic.
I've seen stand-up comedians walk on stage with a glass full of alcohol, and during the performance, they refill it.
Usually when we talk about performance enhancing drugs, we're talking about athletics.
Mm.
And no, it is not a performance enhancing drug for athletics. Maybe comedians.
Well, but we're all creative and artistic here, in a manner of other or other. So everything that my experience as a journalist tells me is that whiskey is a performance enhancing drug.
When it comes to journalism. Tit Goblin says, thank Crom for spring. Winter here means no income. Spring means money. Put my snow shovel away today. All right. Narek P on my lunch break, so checking in for a few minutes. Chris, my local library has one of your books on order, so I put it into hold to check it out. All right.
Cool.
Awesome.
Cool.
Support the artist. But speaking of spring, we've had a tornado in
Thank
Portugal.
you.
A tornado in Portugal.
A tornado in Portugal. This is like it's like crazy. We never had tornadoes. And when we do, they last like 5 seconds. And this one, there were people. It was right above the bridge from the south shore of the Lisbon metropolitan area to Lisbon proper. And so it's like crossing from Jersey to New York to New York City. And the guys going home from work, they were filming it on inside their cars, and whoa, tornado twisting over there, and like, what?
Yeah, that is strange. So I was watching something about tornadoes last year, and they're like there's like very specific climate conditions and very specific sort of geological conditions which is why tornadoes are so rare. But the American Midwest has all those conditions. That's where like all the tornadoes are in the world.
Yeah, but when you have a river estuary,
Yeah.
That's considered a safe harbor in nautical terms. So having a freak weather event in a place where boats are supposed to feel safe.
That's especially freaky.
Yeah.
Tit Goblin says Portuguese tornado sounds like some sexual thing or some Urban Dictionary term.
We can work on that.
Good evening, Splash Page Comics. How are you doing, Mr. White Gloves? What are you working on tonight, Chris?
Nothing. It's something I can't talk about yet.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Well,
it could be that over here.
No. It could be that rare event that professional artists hardly have a time for. I'm just doodling something for myself.
That Jared has all the time for.
Yeah, you're a school teacher. You can draw everything you want.
Except for this past week, man. I mean, this cold, it's almost all gone now. Except I still don't have my energy back. I haven't been able to pick up a pencil or brush in over a week now. It's like, can't stand this. Because that's why, for those of you who don't know what it's like to be sort of self-motivated and have to get things done.
No one knows what it's like to be an Osborne.
It's like easy to get your pain when you're like sick or feeling bad. It's kind of well, I wouldn't say easy, but you can get your pain work done because you have to. You don't have a choice. But anything else, like the stuff I do for myself, it's just like you cannot get it done. It's just like don't have the energy, can't do it. So
I sometimes do things for myself which are easy to do because they stem from an obsessive compulsive disorder. So those are easier to do. You have to do them. It's like when you drop a grains of sand in front of a Chinese vampire, and they have to count it.
Okay.
That's how you defeat a Chinese vampire. You defeat a European vampire with a crucifix, and you defeat a Chinese vampire by throwing away grains of sand.
I think I have heard that before, but I don't remember what it was for.
That sounds similar to how you defeat a leprechaun, or a way to slow down a leprechaun.
How was that?
If you like, I think if you dump something on the ground, they have to count it all. No, maybe that is. I don't know. I've seen that.
Yeah, they do. That is definitely for the Chinese vampire.
Yeah. They've got to count it. Yeah, I remember. I don't know. I must have read it in a comic book sometime. I'm guessing. That's probably it.
Do you remember a South African movie called what was it called? Now I've forgotten the name, which is ridiculous. The Gods Must Be Crazy.
Oh yes, with the Coke bottle.
With the Coke bottle and the Bushmen traveling through the desert of the
Kalahari.
Kalahari.
I never actually saw it, but it was so famous, I know of it.
Okay, so there are actually three The Gods Must Be Crazy movies. So the second one is a retread of the first, because now the Bushmen's children are the ones who get lost somewhere close to civilization, and the Bushman has to go find them. Mm-hmm. And then the third one was financed by some Hong Kong producer, and there are Chinese vampires involved.
And here's something I've read this week. Crazy Enigmats. 1937, 1938. Sifting sands dusts its cheeks in powdered beauty. Crazy Cat comic by George Harriman. Have you ever read Crazy Cat comics?
I haven't.
Chris, have you ever read Crazy Cat comics?
No, I've been told, hey, you got to read. You got to read that. This is groundbreaking,
Yeah.
amazing stuff. Classic. I've heard that a million times. And I've never.
I have
Never
heard
have.
that a million times too. Yet I've never really gotten. I've tried to read Crazy Cat comics over the decade, and I have. This is the first time I've read it and really enjoyed it. Maybe it was the cold. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe it's because I'm old. But I was really enjoying this now. And this is like 37. I think this is later Crazy Cat comics too. This one's all Sunday pages.
Ooh.
Let me I'll get big and show you some. And what's interesting too about Crazy Cat is that
Wow.
the artist George Harriman first of all, I never knew he was a black guy. I think he was mixed race Creole or something like that, they said. I never heard that before, like a couple decades ago. Because
Oh, there's a book about it.
yeah, there's a bunch now.
Ken Quattro wrote it, I think.
But what's interesting too is, and I know, I think it was William Randolph. That Crazy Cat was never a popular comic, but I think it was William Randolph Hearst's favorite comic.
That art looks amazing even today.
Yeah,
I can feel the it's not so much the storytelling, but the way that the universe is designed. Considering that thing is supposed to be a humor strip, and humor strips are supposed to be simple.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, William Randolph Hearst, I think it was, gave him a lifetime contract. So all he did with his whole life was make these Crazy Cat comics. And the strips are kind of nuts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just so different from any other comic in that, well, first of all, it had no economic pressure on it because he had a lifetime contract. So he could be as idiosyncratic as he wanted. And I think because it's like the three main characters are Crazy Cat, who is not always gender specific. Sometimes Crazy Cat is female. Occasionally Crazy Cat is male. It's just whatever he feels like referring it to. Ignatz the Mouse, who is male generally. I just saw him with a family. And Officer Pup, who's a cop. And that's the triangle that just keeps going. Officer Pup is order. Crazy Cat is chaos. I mean, not Crazy Cat. Ignatz the Mouse is chaos, and Crazy Cat is just a cat. What's it? And the whole thing is, Ignatz the Mouse wants to hit Crazy Cat in the head with a brick. So every strip, Ignatz is trying to hit Crazy Cat in the head with a brick. Meanwhile, Officer Pup is trying to stop him and lock him up in jail, which is frequently how the strips end. Meanwhile, Crazy Cat thinks that getting hit in the head with a brick is love. So he thinks Ignatz loves him when he hits him in the head in the brick. And everything revolves around, like, strip after strip revolves around, like, here's a strip where here we go. Crazy Cat is just sitting in a pumpkin field. He's sitting in a pumpkin field, and we see Ignatz the cat hiding under a pumpkin, about to hit him with a brick. And then we see Officer Pup in the pumpkin, hiding in the pumpkin next to him. And then, the duck lady walking by going, what a beautiful night. So Ignaz's plan was foiled that night. What does it just say? Crazy Cat saying, "Moonrise and my moment of tristement is at hand," and it's all written in this slang, this weird slang. "He's toady tonight, little-legged. He should go to an end. Late sometime, but fail me he never does." So he's waiting for Crazy Cat. He's waiting for Ignaz. Then Ignaz pops his head up with a brick. "You, yes, me." Officer Pup sees him. Could he have said sunrise? He could have. Who knows? So like Crazy Cat is just waiting for Ignaz to show up and hit him in the head with a brick because that means love. And then he's just like, then he falls asleep in the pumpkins, never gets hit in the head with his brick. And the duck lady walked by going, I know, a tryst. And it's like every strip is no, here's a strip with just where is it? He'll not foil me, that cop. He'll not foil me, that mouse. And it's just that's this one with this big tower. We just see that's Ignaz at the top of the tower, and that's him in that first panel running up to the tower, and the cop running past the tower. And then we just have the brick falling on Crazy's head, about to hit him. And there's like the duck woman who walks by. There's the man who makes the bricks that Crazy buys them from. It's just such a nutty, and it's like he just like it's so idiosyncratic because it's like this strip couldn't exist without a lifetime contract for George Harriman. If this wasn't William Randolph Hearst's favorite strip, it probably wouldn't exist past a few years because it was never one of the more popular strips. But like in the 30s, a lot of sort of the intelligentsia got behind it and really loved it because, like I said, it's just nuts.
But you can tell. I mean, when you look at something, I've seen this before. Yeah, you've seen this before on something that's modern, and you
very
you look at that.
Right.
Yeah, you look at that and you notice how Walt Kelly probably liked that.
Yeah.
And more recently, Matt Groening.
Right.
You
can definitely very, very influential strip, if not popular. But it's like maybe this is the first time I've read Crazy Cat and liked it. Other times I've tried to read Crazy Cat, I really didn't get it. Maybe it's the cold, maybe it's that I'm older. But I really enjoyed reading it this week. Have you ever read Crazy Cat, Wilson?
I tried to, because that was one of those strips that I clearly remember taking out in the library because they had a book of it. Or more so, they had a book of comic strips, and there was a section with Crazy Cat. And I would read it as a kid and not understand a single thing about it. And every few years, I go back to it and go through it, and it's like, I'm not getting it. It's pretty, it's interesting to look at. I like the art style, but I'm not getting it.
I'll have to say that I had the exact same experience. This is the first time I got it.
Okay. So yeah, maybe it is an age thing.
Who knows?
You have to go back. I have to see if I even have. I'm almost positive I have a Crazy Cat book around here. I have to have one.
Not only the age, is that it's one of those things like the more you know about comics, the more you are able to understand things from way back.
Right.
Let's see.
And even the artist's story itself is fascinating. Where we don't even know
just
enough about
here
him.
looking at but just here looking at those pages, and you wonder, that Crazy Cat is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I wonder if I would feel the same about Thimble Theater or Mutt and Jeff. Those look dated compared to this.
And this particular version came out in 2006. I probably got it around 2006, 2008, and tried reading it then, and was like, and it's been on my shelf ever since. So this is the first time I probably tried reading Crazy Cat in at least a decade.
Right.
And like I said, I really got it this time. Maybe it's the cold, maybe it's my age, but I really, really enjoyed it. Let's see what we got here. Jared, I felt bad because I knew you had a cold and was probably down. I wanted to send you that interview that mentioned as one of my inspirations in art. Part got cut out from it. Yeah. But I liked that Tit Goblin also sent me a documentary on this 87-year-old New York City artist who was still making art at 87, even though he wasn't famous. So that was a good documentary. I liked that one. I forget the name of it now.
Oh, that sounds pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation doesn't care about me talking about American artists. Go figure. Yeah, he was interviewed in some documentary, and he named me as one of his inspirations.
Yeah, but
they
Tit
left it on
Goblin,
the cutting.
you got to tell him that Jared is from upstate, from what New Yorkers consider upstate
Yes.
New York,
Uh-huh.
which means it's practically Canadian.
Eric B., if you're looking for a Canadian artist to be inspired by, I suggest Tom Bagley, Tomb from Calgary, might be worth checking out. Okay. Back to work, everyone. Have a good evening. All right, Eric P., have a good evening. Back to work. Yeah, but like I said, I really enjoyed reading Crazy Cat this time around. That was fun stuff, so I recommend it now.
Oh, okay.
Like
Yeah.
it really is. And also read it a couple strips a day.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be read as a graphic novel because it's not.
Right.
Mhm.
You know, read a couple strips here, a couple strips there. Read it like a Sunday strip.
George Harriman is a bit like Fletcher Hanks, is that it was one of those crazy guys from the Golden Age that people didn't really understand.
Yeah.
But now there's a lot of interest from the guys who are into history. I
Right.
suppose that if you're looking for the next X-Men comic, you're not interested in Fletcher Hanks and George Harriman.
Right.
But if you want to try out new stuff, even though this is old stuff,
Right.
I think people are that are looking for something to go the extra mile to check out something different, that they're going to understand not only how important but how creative all of that is.
And there's, I mean, and then just to think this is, 30, there was a lot of years of Crazy Cat. I mean, this is 37, 38, and it started in like 1916. And there was dailies and Sundays.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of Crazy Cat.
Yeah. Have you seen modern reprints of Nemo in Slumberland?
Oh, yeah.
And you see the art as it's supposed to be
Right.
enjoyed. Man, this guy was a genius.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was way back 120 years ago,
Right.
Yeah.
before everyone else that we like.
He was one of the original animators too. He invented a lot of animation technique, which also reminds me, speaking of 120 years ago, I just backed this week a couple of days ago, and it just went through a history of comic book printing book. So I remember my friend Ed showed me it a few weeks ago, but
who
I
wrote it?
forgot
You?
about it. What was that?
I said, who wrote
you
it?
write
You?
Nope. So I got the digital version of it for like $25 because I didn't need another giant book for $60.
Did Stick write it?
I look forward to reading it when it finally comes out.
A friend of mine here in Portugal just published a book about the history of fonts.
Oh,
Yeah, I gotta go back to the monthly comics dinner so I can tell them to get that thing translated so you guys can buy it.
right.
Yeah.
Because it looks interesting, actually.
A lot of type classes will like to show that one.
Mhm.
By the way, Chris is working on nothing tonight, Wilson, so don't ask him.
Okay.
Can't talk about it, okay?
Super secret stuff. Be on the lookout. Follow Chris Geruso in all of the media and on every social media that you can find him.
But you can tell us what it is
photos
there.
of him.
What?
We're plugging your stuff, even though we don't know what it is.
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on X.
Chris G Comics.
It's
those
just
who
Chris
can't-
Jeruso.
The G stands for greatness.
You expect them to be able to spell Jeruso? Good luck.
If you
I can
spell it
spell
wrong,
Jer-
Google can help you.
All
I can spell
right.
I can spell Jeruso because I'm used to Italian names.
Aha.
If you spell it wrong, Google will step in and help you out a little bit and point you at my website.
All right.
I can
But-
pronounce
but-
Chris's last name in Italian.
Ah, let's hear it.
Wow,
Jarusso.
that
Jeruso.
sounds good.
Sounds good to me. Crazy cat.
Sounds like how my grandparents would talk.
Where are your grandparents from in Italy?
I think my grandfather was from northern Italy, and I'm not sure where my grandmother's family was from.
Oh,
So
so
I
they met in
got-
America? They met
My
already in
grandfather
America?
was born. What?
They already met in America, so then
No, my grandfather was born in Italy. My grandmother wasn't. So that was kind of, I think of like a scandal in the family. Like,
Yeah.
you're getting together with a girl that wasn't even born in Italy. What's wrong with you? Even though she was also Italian, full blood Italian.
Nothing changes. Art for Hank's sake. That was the name of the documentary he sent me about that 87-year-old artist who lived in New York City. Thumbs up, peeps. Missing Mars. Did you make it to the comic shop this week, Wilson?
I did not make it this week, but I did make it last week. And since I wasn't on the show last week, I technically do have comic books that I picked up
All
that I could
right.
show. And the comic books that I picked up was the comic books for that week, and I believe the week before.
And they're
And I'm hoping
still
this
in
is
their
the right
bag.
bag. So I hope this is the right bag for it.
That's a pretty good pile, looks like there.
Yeah, I think I might have put some stuff together. So I do not know if I had already shown this stuff. Now that I'm looking at it, I think I did. So that might mean that there is another bag around here full of comics.
Some other bag somewhere. Well, I'll show something first then.
All right, go ahead.
I got issue 1 of Feral. This I picked up off the rack by the creators of Stray Dogs. And this was good. I liked it. I don't know if you've ever read Stray Dogs. Stray Dogs is one I read. I think I read it on Hoopla. It was a pretty popular series from Boom a couple of years ago. And Stray Dogs was the one that was about a bunch of these dogs living in a house. And it turned out they were trophies of a serial killer. The serial killer would, kill a person and take their dog. So the dogs were all figuring this out and figuring out what to do as they lived in this house. Because every now and then a new dog would show up. And they don't have a long-term memory. So they'd soon lose the memory of their past lives and only have a memory of their present one. That was like a 4-issue series or so. Well done. And it's by... What's funny is that it's written by Tony Fleecs, Fleecs, art by Trish Forstner and Tone Rodriguez, color by Brad Simpson. I don't know what cougar magic means by Sarah Richard. Maybe is there a cougar in here? That's strange. Cougar magic. I didn't notice that. But
cougar magic. It's probably when a cougar gets a young man to have sex with her.
And in loving memory of April Dawn Rodriguez, beloved mother, grandmother, sister, aunt, and comic art wife. So there's a Something in the back. I wonder if this is Tone Rodriguez's wife who died. I'm not sure. Or mother or grandmother. I don't know. I don't know how old Tone Rodriguez is. Oh yeah, there's an ad for Stray Dogs. You can get the but that's a good series, Stray Dogs, to read. But this was pretty cool. It was, like I said, Tony Fleece or Flex, I don't know how to pronounce his name, is also one of the artists on Local Man. So I guess he writes this and draws that up. And I was like, huh. But this one is about it was a perfect day. This one was about a bunch of cats who were being taken away in this animal control vehicle. They don't know why they were being taken away. They're like, what happened to our, parents? Then the vehicle crashes and they're loose in the wild and kind of feral, and have to face the wild. And then at the very end, we find out that there's some sort of rabies outbreak. So they get there's some rabies boxes out there chasing them. So I guess this is going to be a little survival horror with these house cats. But really well done first issue. The art was nice. The storytelling was nice. I'm going to put this one on my pull list, definitely. And then they give you a little definition of rabies back here. So it's definitely about that. But liked this one. It was a nice pickup from the creators of Stray Dogs. And I guess here's a page. I guess these are the creators' cats, keyboard cats. But if you're looking for a good comic, Feral is pretty good. I know it's a modern comic and it probably sucks, but I enjoyed it. Did you find yours, Wilson? Oh, you're muted, I think. Or is it just me? Can everyone hear?
No, it might have been me.
Oh,
I had
okay.
I had this up. I think it mutes when it goes up, but it doesn't
right.
indicate it on the
Ah,
on the machine.
right.
I had mixed up, I think, a bunch of my books together when I was moving things around. So I'm almost sure
Well, show us one.
these are the newer ones. So off the top, here we have is Superman issue number 12.
Let's
Take it out of the bag because of the shininess.
so we can see it.
So Superman issue 12 is one
A
of the
race
newer
against time.
to save Lex Luthor. And I guess there's kryptonite in that jar. So every now and then I do pick up the Superman books. It's on my pull list. I have not sat down and read it, but it has some nice looking artwork.
Yeah.
And Superman is one of those DC characters that I like to basically check in on with.
Mm-hmm.
Because every now and then there's usually something interesting going on, mainly because
Lobo.
there's an appearance of Lobo. I've been finding that creators lately have been doing some interesting things with Superman because, the character is so old that, everything's been done.
Right. So they're getting out there with him.
I think so, yeah. They're trying new things with him, trying new villains. So I always find that fun.
Okay. Who's that villain with the big glove?
I believe
Any
he's
idea?
a Luthor from the future.
Ah. Mr. Luthor from the future.
Mr. Luthor.
From the future.
Even Superman gets a nice little new costume-ish
Oh, look at that.
look to him.
Cool beans.
Looks like a Chinese knockoff toy.
Well, they're
Which
all
will
gonna
probably
look
be
like that
available
today.
for McFarlane Toys.
Made in China.
The next book I have is Spider Boy.
All right, let's see Spider Boy. What do you got
And it's
there?
a nice shot of, I'm guessing it's going to be the rhino.
Some sort of elephant foot or rhino foot.
Yeah, I'm going to assume rhino because it's, he's a part of the Spider-Man family or the Spider-Man franchise. Nice little Captain America appearance. And Squirrel Girl.
Squirrel
Seems to have a
Girl.
pretty good following. And Miles. I think that's Miles.
Is this the Miles Spider-Man book?
No, this is a new kid that was
Okay. Miles
according
is
to the story, he was Spider-Man's sidekick.
Oh, that's right. This is Spider Boy. Yeah.
Right, Spider Boy. So he was Spider-Man's sidekick who somehow got erased from the web of the universe.
Okay.
Or whatever they were calling it that connected him to it. Oh, it is not rhino. It's some sort of elephant creature.
Oh, it is an elephant.
Helafino?
Helafino?
I guess that's a new name to me.
Mm-hmm. So we can't talk about Cenozoic megafauna.
I'm going to guess that this creature is also created by the same person, the Dr. Evil that they had that created him. That's the High Evolutionary. Haven't seen him.
The High Evolution. He's the one who creates all these animal creatures.
Yes. So there must be a connection to it in there. His name is Bailey Briggs. I'm guessing Bailey for the comic book artist Mark.
How many
Bagley.
Spider Boys have there been?
As far as I'm aware of, as carrying the Spider Boy mantle, the name, there's only been one other. Has been the DC Amalgam one that had that
Maybe that's
title.
what I'm thinking of, right?
So there was that. Spider Boy was part of the Amalgam universe, which they took the Ben Reilly, who was a clone, and then Superboy at that time, who was a clone, and merged them together to make Spider Boy. And there was a Spider Boy issue, and then there was the Legion of Superheroes Spider Boy issue as well, which has Spider Boy 2099. Those are the only ones that I recall that's part of that title, Spider Boy. And
they're actually collecting all that stuff in an omnibus too.
Yes, all the Marvel and the DC.
Yeah, they're putting out two omnibuses. I think one from Marvel and one from DC that collect all the Marvel DC stuff, all the amalgam and crossover stuff. They just announced.
I didn't think they'd ever do that.
No one thought they'd ever do that.
No one did, and then all of a sudden, someone realized, "Hey, we can make money."
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're coming out.
But corporations don't like to share money. They don't like to help other people make money.
You're right.
Not at all. But if they do it like the original contracts was, Marvel printed out a set, DC printed out a set. I'm sure somebody was smart enough to go, you keep your money, we keep ours, and we each print these out at the same time.
I think that's how it's going. I think there's one omnibus from Marvel and one omnibus from DC.
I'm sure there is, because it's like, and again, there's no crossover of the money. It's just that, hey, let's do this at the same time, and we both make money.
Well, yep, they're printing them all again.
Out of all the Marvel DC crossovers, do you guys have any favorite?
My favorite has to be the first one, Superman, Spider-Man. Other than that, I have no nostalgia value for any of them, I don't think.
I agree.
X-Men Titans.
X-Men Titans. Oh, yeah, that one.
Yeah. I kind of think of them because when I read them, I think I read them all as reprints. So for me, I've had the trade paperback with the whole major crossover. I do know that I did buy X-Men Teen Titans. That was probably the first one that I read as an actual comic book. And then the rest I had gotten as these digest books. So they made the Superman, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, the two books, because there's the one with that John Buscema drew later. which has Wonder Woman and Doctor Doom. I probably read that one first. In this like small
Right.
trade paperback, but in color, but these small pocket books. I read that one first, and then found the Superman, Spider-Man in a trade paperback, and then Batman and Hulk, same type of thing. I reread that in some format, so that was how I got introduced to it. And I would say Superman, Spider-Man was my favorite. All of those crossovers.
I'd actually say JLA Avengers would have to be my favorite. I forgot about that one. The
Right.
Perez one.
That's
enjoyed that.
definitely a fun read.
I wonder if that one's going to be in either volume. I don't remember seeing it in the list, but
I think it probably deserves a new print of the full trade paperback. I don't know if they have the rights to reprint the original pages because they don't own them.
right.
They don't own the art. I suppose they will own the copyright because it's their
Yeah.
characters.
Right.
Right.
If they have they printed it before, I think, haven't they?
Yeah,
Like
but
in the
I think it
back
was-
or something.
I think it was a special arrangement
Right.
at the time.
But as long as they have scans of it, they own it.
Yeah, I suppose.
They own copyright on those scans. So,
Mhm.
but yeah,
You know,
like
from
I
the-
remember, I still have my X-Men Teen Titans on my shelf in my X-Men collection. I remember
Yeah.
getting it when it came out and enjoying it, but I don't think I've read it since the 80s. So I can't really
probably
tell
read
you
it-
how much I'd like it now.
I probably read it about 20 years ago. Yeah, it's a fun read. I mean,
Yeah, I remember it being good, solid. I remember enjoying it.
it's Claremont and Simonson. You know,
Yeah.
you know what you're
Yeah,
getting.
you got solid
And-
art in there, no matter what. It is
Yeah.
solid artwork,
Mhm.
and
You can't-
I had fun with them.
You
I
can't
enjoyed
tell that it was supposed to be that from the plot that originally it was supposed to be X-Men Legion, not X-Men
Yeah.
Titans. But it worked. It still works. I mean, let's remember that the first thing that the New Teen Titans did big was fight Trigon, and that was in the first year.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not expecting a team led by Batman's sidekick to go off fighting a demon from another dimension. You know, from all
Trigon the Terrible. He was a good-looking villain. Nice design on him.
Yeah. Fun fact: the character's first full appearance was not drawn by Perez. Drew the character, of course, and he was drawn by Perez on the cover. But Kurt Swan had to fill in for that issue, and you can tell the storytelling is so stilted.
Oh, that was an early issue of Titans, right?
About the issue number 5, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Kurt Swan issue in the middle of that Perez. Ooh, that was tough.
Yeah. You know, but from all of the crossovers of the 90s, so there were 2 Batman Punisher crossovers,
Okay,
and the second one was the one published by Marvel,
right.
in which Batman was back because the first one they have Jean-Paul Valley in the one published by DC. It's Jean-Paul Valley in the costume, so it doesn't feel like a true Batman Punisher crossover. I mean, if you want, they wanted to do with the characters that they were publishing, but this is the type of thing that you want to see with the real ones. So Marvel ended up doing it because by that time Bruce was back in the costume, and Batman Punisher was drawn by Romita Jr. Punisher Batman, that is, was drawn by Romita Jr. So it functions very well as both a 90s Batman story and a 90s Punisher story.
And we've mentioned this before, not Marvel DC, but Batman Grendel was a good crossover in the 90s.
Yeah.
I always liked
Good.
that one.
Yeah, because Matt Wagner
Matt
should
Wagner
have been
could.
should have been a DC artist all along.
Then you can never forget the ultimate crossover, which was Punisher Archie.
Oh yeah. What was that one? I remember it being good, but I don't think I've read it in a while. Like Alan Moore, Wildcats JLA or something like that.
That was Grant Morrison. Yeah,
That was Grant Morrison.
Yeah, JLA Wildcats.
I remember
Yeah.
that one being pretty good.
It feature it's the GLA, but it's the Electric Superman
Yeah.
and Green Lantern is Kyle Rayner,
Ah.
and the Wildcats was being canceled was sort of canceled at the time because it was right on the cusp of the title being of Wildstorm being sold to DC.
Right.
And the Wildcats had sort of disbanded because the original team had gone with Jacob Marlowe back to Kara, to the planet that Jacob Marlowe came from.
Lord Kurthon, was that his?
Lord Imp.
Lord Imp.
Okay. Yeah. And so the team that shows up in that crossover is a basic team. Yeah. You have Grifter, you have Maul, Majestic, Zealot. So not the whole of the team, but it kind of works there because Majestic being a Superman analog, they get to talk about it. And Majestic even because that's the first time that Majestic meets Superman. And after DC bought Wildstorm, Majestic would come to the DC universe and learn what it's like to be an actual heroic being, because that's what they didn't have in the Wildstorm universe. Nobody is actually a superhero.
Right.
They're just super powered guys fighting each other.
One thing I remember about that.
No, there's a funny funny line in there because it's the Electric Superman. Majestic walks up to Superman. You should wear a cape.
One thing I remember about that issue too is it was a time travel story.
Sort of, yeah.
And I just remember, I think whenever the JLA would leave through time and the Wildcats would have to chase after them, and the one guy kept going, "Hey, we don't have to hurry. We can stop. It's time travel. We can stop and rest and then show up the same minute they do."
Yeah.
No need to hurry.
Yeah. Batman tells Superman that.
Laws of time travel.
62 Lefty. It's just the way for Marvel and DC to sell you some rope. Do the work and then pull them out of the $1.50 boxes. Oh, I think he's talking about new comics. Yeah.
Well, if you can find all of the crossovers, the ones from the 70s, you can't, of course. They're more expensive. But
Kit Goblin loved the first Batman Predator.
But from the ones from the 90s, I suppose that most of them are in the $1.50 boxes.
Well, I always find I haven't seen it in a while because there's just not that many hauls on YouTube anymore that I watch. But I used to hate it when someone would find in the dollar box all these comics that I bought for full price. I'd always be like, but I know I'm not going to look in the dollar boxes for all this stuff. I'll get them at full price. But I was like, oh, I got this whole run of Usagi Yojimbo, 20 issues for $20. I'd be like, paid $4 for that. But that's the way it goes.
It is, because sometimes you'll see that someone's like, "Oh, I went to this show and got all these." It's like, well, I don't feel bad because I didn't go to that show.
Yeah.
So people would talk about getting vintage action figures somewhere, and it's like, "Oh, look, I got this whole set of vintage Star Wars figures in the carrying case, and the kid never opened it up when he got it." And it's like, well, there's no garage sales like that around me anyway, so I can't feel too jealous. But every now and then someone will post something and I'm like, "Dag, well, there was no way to get to that show." So I can't get too jealous about it. But I know
and I'm like, you know what? If I shopped that way, I would miss out on 90% of the comics I buy. Because they don't end up in dollar boxes because no one orders enough copies of them for them to end up in dollar boxes.
True.
Let's see, another comic I got this week. The comic with the most boring covers ever. The Ministry of Compliance, issue number 4. And this is the one that's a story about these... as sort of a spy story about these aliens taking over the world, But they're like the most interesting part is these human resistance people who wear monkey masks. But the aliens are all corporate and they're taking over behind the scenes. And I like it. It's good, but there's just not many particularly interesting. This one had some good visuals with this weird eye gun. But it's all like corporate intrigue stuff. Like this issue, our main characters are this woman who runs the Ministry of Compliance, who's one of the factions of aliens. They have different ministries, and they're the ones who make sure all the aliens are complying with their plan to take over the world. And there's also half-breeds who are half human and half alien. Of course, no one really likes them. But this woman's new assistant is one of these half-breeds. And she's sort of working for the resistance and not working for the resistance. And in this issue, the resistance gives her this gun to kill her. Oh, pardon me. But then she betrays the resistance and sides with her. And now we got to figure out what's going on. So it's this whole sort of intrigue spy thing that's going on. I just wish it had better covers.
I don't think that cover is necessarily bad. The problem is with modern coloring.
This is one of the better ones, actually.
Yeah, but if that thing had flatter colors and the way to make sure we had a they went too realistic with the color too. What is that design? That there's a particular like type of computer design where when you make something look like when you're designing an interface on the computer and you make something that's a note look like a sticky note, or you make something that's supposed to be a cork board look exactly like a cork board. There's a name for that type of design, and you really don't have to do it like on a computer, but people do because it's the easiest and most comfortable thing for people. This was kind of the easiest, most comfortable way to color this cover. It's a wanted poster, so you fade it out and make it look like a wanted poster and make the knives kind of look like knives, but it's done and make the wood in the background kind of look like wood color, but it's just boring overall. So you're right about the coloring. You need more contrast in there.
Yeah.
Make sure that the woman's photograph in the poster stands out more.
They could have stepped away from realism.
Yeah, definitely.
And it would have been much less dull. I don't know about I don't know if there's any other cover. They don't show. But it's like every cover I've seen of this. It also doesn't help that. Like I said, they're very corporate. So they're all wearing, gray suits. So there's not much but they could have done there were some interesting visuals. She got this gun that connected to her eyes. So there were some interesting visuals with that it swung around and connected to her eyes and connected to her. There were some interesting visuals with that they could have used, but they did. Yeah, here's the gun connecting with her eye. They could have done something with that with a cover that would have been more interesting, but who knows? But this was also the one, if you remember, in the first issue, I showed you something with the woman who was the half-breed, who was the new assistant to this woman here. She came on board, and they gave her this new hot outfit. She's like, do I really have to wear this thing? And it was like a gray pantsuit with a skirt. It was the most unsexy thing you've ever seen, and they were acting like it was some skin-tight bikini. I was like, really? This is the thing that's too hot for her? It's
this kind of reminds me of Warren Ellis doing the Doom 2099 is Doom 2099 storyline, because basically the whole point that Ellis found is that so this is the future. Where are the space aliens? And turns out that the space aliens took over the corporations and made humanity forget that aliens existed. And during that storyline, Doom uncovers that the leader of Alchemax was an alien, and he was trying to take over. He was finally going to take over the United States, and that's why Doom took over the United States himself to prevent Alchemax from taking over. During the course of the story, he discovers that the leader is an alien, and the guy who was number 2 at Alchemax, the Spider-Man 2099's illegitimate father. He has a breakdown. Yeah, exactly. Stone. He has a breakdown, and there's no such thing as space aliens. There's no such thing as space aliens. The technology was supposed to be much more evolved than it was. Doom noticed it, and so there's a little bit of technology. The thing is, the guy who was the alien who was the leader of Alchemax, even in his human form, he had that that look that they gave the 2099 people, that was with bits, colorful bits everywhere. So he didn't look boring. So why the hell do you have space aliens taking over corporations that they have to look boring?
Who knows?
Especially at a time, the guys who
Is it another Marvel book? Are they both Marvel books?
Well, the one he's talking about is Doom 2099. This one isn't. This one is the Ministry of Compliance. It's an IDW book by who is it? The writer is John Ridley, and the artist is Stefano Raffaele.
Okay. Look, if you have Stefano Raffaele, why are you giving him boring stuff to draw?
And he's good. He's good. I don't know who he is, but he's good.
I have one. Stefano Raffaele has been going through the motions. He did something with Conan recently, and he did a French Tarzan graphic novel that I have, which was painted by Cameron Stewart. So it looks pretty American for a French book.
The art inside isn't particularly boring, besides all the gray suits.
Right.
It's the covers that are just so dull.
Yeah, but here's the thing: the guy's very good.
Yeah, he is.
So they're giving him boring stuff to draw. If he's doing good art, in spite of giving him boring directions, imagine how good that story could actually be.
Yeah. It's nice stuff, though. Like it's just the covers I'm really complaining about. I'm enjoying the insides, but I'm the kind of person who wants a good comic cover. I know people say covers don't matter anymore, including me sometimes.
Who says
I
that?
want them to matter.
Who says that?
People who collect Deadpool variants.
The people who don't put as much thought into covers as they used to.
Right, because they need the cover to slap it onto a T-shirt and a lunchbox, so you can't have it interesting. Although you can,
that still needs to look cool.
It helps,
and sometimes they do. I mean, that tells me a story. Told me the wrong story. I thought it was Rhino, but that I enjoy this as a cover.
Right.
And it would technically work as a T-shirt.
Yeah.
But
I'm not saying the artists don't think the covers matter. I'm thinking that they
I think it's the last thing. Yeah, it's the last thing they think about.
Yeah, the publishers.
Yeah,
we know that.
Like, or they have.
That's not true either. Like they like half their business is multiple covers.
Oh yeah, well they think about multiple covers, but they don't think about the image on a single cover. Well, I think it's also because the cover isn't the first thing you see. Most comic book fans don't walk into a store and see the cover of this month's whatever and it's the first time they're seeing it.
Yeah,
but covers are still what they send out for solicits.
Yes, and it's got to look good on the thumbnail. That's what we were discussing this one week, that we think some covers are drawn for their thumbnails even now these days. Some covers, looking good on a thumbnail is important.
Well,
I'm not saying
in my
covers are
day-
unimportant.
in
I'm
my
saying they're
day,
not as important as they once were.
thumbnails would be the first thing you draw.
Yeah, I'm not saying the covers aren't important. They're just not as important as they once. They're not as thought about as they were in the '60s, when Stan Lee would make arbitrary changes on the covers because that's all he was thinking about, good or bad changes. Because I don't see how you can be thinking about covers, good or bad, and come up with this. I don't see how you send that out and think this cover is gonna make anyone buy this comic. I just don't. I don't get the thinking behind it. I think this is, we need a cover. Here are some sketches. Oh, I like that one. I think that cover was done by rote. It was done because they need a cover.
What do you think happened first? People stopped getting comics off the shelves, or people reacted to having fewer comics on the shelves by not paying attention to the covers?
I think it was just the way comics were sold. If you're buying comics at a comic shop, there's a solid chance you'll have a pull list like me, and in that case, the comic's pre-sold. Doesn't matter what the cover is.
Yeah, there was a time I tried to have a series or two that I was buying, or at least a mini series that I was pulling off the shelf.
Right.
So there's always the possibility that you're looking through the shelves and trying to find
Oh,
something
yeah.
to read.
I still buy comics because a good cover can get me to pick up the comic and look through it. I'm not saying that still happens with me. I go to the comic shop every week. I look through the new. I pulled 2 comics off the shelf this week, but I didn't pull this one off because of the cover. I picked this one up because it was from the creators of Stray Dogs. So the cover didn't hook me in on this one. Matter of fact, it's not a particularly good cover. I think it's a little too dull.
Yeah. The problem that I see here overall is that if buyers have become so accustomed to pre-ordering,
right,
that they don't try out something new by looking at the shelves,
right.
I think we're in trouble because
almost everyone I know who's at the comic shop who pre-orders still looks at the shelves. So I think people still look at the shelves, but that still makes the cover less important, because your Spider-Mans and your Batmans are pre-sold, and I think that trickles down, and so they're not thinking about the covers as much, and that trickles down. But it's like I look every week at the shelf, and sometimes there's a comic I've never heard of that the cover catches my eye, and that gets me to pick it up and thumb through it. So I think that it's not that they're unimportant; they're just less important. And you got to do a better job than this if you're the Ministry of Compliance.
You bought it.
I did, and because I happened to, the cover didn't catch my eye, but I thought the drawing on the cover of issue 1 was pretty good, so I picked it up and looked through it and liked the art in it. I bought it despite it. Matter of fact, I remember trying to pick which cover for issue 1 to buy, and I didn't like any of them. And I almost was like, I bought it despite its cover. And there was 2 or 3 choices, and they were all not very interesting.
Still find this a bit worrying. I mean, it puts all the work on the potential buyer, making sure that they have to pre-order, and then the one thing that would have been their biggest sales tool becomes such an afterthought that it fails to garner additional interest.
Well, it doesn't, because comic shops have to order so close to their pre-orders anyway. If it always happens that some big comic on the once or twice a year it hits the news. Everybody goes into the shop and can't find it because that's comics aren't. You don't order 100 extra copies of any comic in hopes that 100 people walk in to buy it. It doesn't work. So it's kind of like I can understand the covers being less important because they are, but the number of people who wander in and buy a comic before its cover are very small. Well, it used to be that was the first thing you ever saw on a comic. You'd go to the newsstand and there'd be all these covers there.
Yeah.
You'd go, ooh, I like that cover. Let me see.
It's funny because in Europe you're not depending. You don't have the concept of pre-orders. And there are so many new comics, and they're expensive because they're mostly graphic novels.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have to stand out, and sometimes and it's more like the cover's so good that the art inside is not as good, even though it's the same artist, because the artist will put more work into the cover than into the storytelling.
Bought out of spite.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there have been some times where I go to the comic shop, I get my pull list, I thumb through them quickly, and then I chat for the next half hour, so that I come home and I'm making my video, and that's the first time I'm looking at my covers. I'm like, sometimes like, oh, that one's nice. I didn't even notice that one because it's like it doesn't matter the covers because they're on my pull list. I'm getting them anyway. That's the wood. Tit Goblin says, I remember as a kid buying bagged back issues for the cover and getting bummed when the inside sucked. Oh, that always happened. I called the 80s horror movie VHX box. Oh, that happened in the 60s with Neil Adams covers and into the 70s. That was the biggest. You'll always hear DC Comics fans of the 60s complaining that, they bought a comic with a Neil Adams cover and then it had, Joe Slobotnik inside. So they were like, ah.
Of course, it had Joe Slobotnik inside.
He's the best baseball player of all time.
or video game covers of the 1980s. Back when you still had 8-bit characters inside.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The cover was a full illustration.
Full detail illustration. It's like, this is amazing. This game is going to be wonderful. And you open it up and it's like 4 colors.
Yeah, but ultimately it didn't really matter because you knew you had very few computer resources.
Yeah.
So the playability was more important than the way that the characters looked inside. So if the art led you to buy the game and then you played the game and you had fun, that was more important. There's that sort of disconnection because the purpose of the video game as an entertainment object is different than the purpose of the comic book. So you can't have that disconnect in video game art.
Friar Tuck says, I believe it's happening now with the covers. I think it is, but we take it for granted that it's happening now. With so many alternate covers and whatever, we fully expect the cover to be disconnected from the inside. A lot of times, I think. At least I do. Because the first thing I'm like is, oh, nice cover. And I never think it's going to relate to the inside. Nice cover made me look through it. Tit Goblin says, Yar's revenge for the Atari game was so the cover.
I've heard.
Well, horrible or less writing on the inside. Yeah. Darren Kane. Sometimes on an NES cart boxes, on the back, they deceive you with arcade screenshots rather than the 8-bit port.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was worse because it was understood that the cover art was not representative of the digital artwork. But if you're using printouts from the arcade game in the computer game, you are the deceiving the customer.
Then you're really deceiving.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I think I don't always, even when a cover, I mean, a cover has to catch my eye, has to be visually striking. On a book, I don't usually buy, in order for me to pick it up and then see what the book is. But the cover, I don't think I expect the cover to relate to what's inside the book. That's why I have to pick up the book and flip through it. There have been plenty of times when the cover's caught my eye, and I picked it up and flipped through it and put it back. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Like the cover art, not the inside. So I think that's just, having good cover art is just step one for me checking out a book.
Yeah. I still remember some 90s, because when they used to have to have fill-ins more often than not, and then you have a Mark Bagley cover and it's Kirk Jarvinen inside. Although sometimes the problem was not, it wasn't the fill-in artist's fault. It was more like, so the fill-in artist is not the regular artist. You're used to the even when you change artists, it takes you a couple of months to get used to the new guy, and then you get used to it. But then you have the fill-in, and the fill-in looks nothing like it's supposed to be, and the storytelling is wonky, and the character designs are wonky.
My advice to Friar Tuck is to buy the books with good writing. If you're looking for good writing, don't expect good writing to be on a random book just because you want it to be. You have to track down the comics with good writing. You can't say, I want to buy Spider-Man with good writing. You have to say, I want to buy good writing, and then find whatever comic happens to have good writing.
Yeah, it's the problem that I've been pointing out. People still want to go back to Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
And it's that thing. Just a few minutes, just a couple of hours ago, I saw something on Facebook, and it's like, if people were demanding more franchise restaurants in their area. I'd like to have an In-N-Out. I'd like to have a Popeye's Chicken. And why don't you want to have a mom and pop restaurant? I'd like to have a mom and pop restaurant. But if the mom and pop restaurant mess up the food once, it makes you not want to go back.
Yeah.
If McDonald's messes up every day, you still go back.
Because it's the same mess up every day.
Yeah, you're used to it. And it's the same thing in comics. I mean, you don't know what you're getting from the creator-owned comic.
Right.
So if it's not your cup of tea, you immediately dismiss it. This sucks. Right. And Marvel and DC, you go back, and it's Spider-Man and Batman.
That's the same crap, but you're used to that crap, even if it's crap.
But it's hard to hard to
break the habit.
Yeah, it is. Even for me, it was. I kept buying the Avengers for a couple of years, even though it was not the Avengers as I wanted them to be.
Right.
Until I was forced to break the habit because I had to stop buying comics, and I couldn't justify spending money on that.
Right. It wasn't hard for me just because I was the kind of person who was always looking for. I'm the kind of person who's always looking for something new. So it's actually easy for me to try new things, and that's not. I've known, that's not a normal trait I've learned over the years. There are people like me who are always looking for the next new. We want new things, but most people want the familiar. They want their Spider-Man to be Spider-Man, and I understand that. But that's why it was easy for me to move off Marvel and DC when I was young. But most people, it's not that easy. Tit Goblin, what the hell is this? This comic has nothing to do with dolphins or flamingos. Friar Tuck, need recommendations, Jared. Well, watch one of my pull list hauls. The stuff this stuff here I buy every week is I always recommend it. It all depends on what you like too. Valiant was why I started buying comics again in the 90s, as much as they got bashed eventually. Yeah, I skipped over the 90s Valiant. I kind of missed out on all of it.
Mhm.
Writing was great and art was great to start with, Barry Windsor Smith, and so on. But yeah, when they kicked Shooter out, Valiant went downhill, I think, is what
Oh yeah.
happened.
Yeah,
From what I'm
I
told.
enjoyed early
Yeah.
Valiant. That was a
How
lot
long
of
was
fun.
Shooter there?
Not too long.
2-3 years, right?
The thing about Valiant existed for 2 years before they came up with the Valiant universe,
Okay.
because they did the
Yeah.
wrestling comics and the Nintendo comics.
Was Shooter there?
Yeah, he founded the company,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
it wasn't
He
his
founded it.
money.
Was Valiant before or after Defiant?
Oh, way before.
Yeah.
It was before
Defiant was
So
what he
his-
founded after he got kicked out of Valiant.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Valiant started in 1990, I believe, but 1989, but it was only 2 years after that they came up with the Valiant universe.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I enjoyed it when it turned into that Valiant universe that they touted the house style. I liked the coloring. The things that were done in it visually was really cool. And I even got caught up into the numbering system and stuff like that. It was like you
The
visually
zeros and
saw
the
that
symbols.
it was limited edition, but not really.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah,
them had
I remember
coupons.
I remember them being hot, but I was so not reading any mainstream comics at that time that I never even I think I finally read some Valiant comics. Well, some of the 90s Valiant comics I read like when that second Valiant incarnation happened in like 2008 or whenever that was. I remember buying the Harbinger trade autographed by Jim Shooter at my LCS. They just happened to have one lying around then. I was like, wow. I read it and I went, oh, I can understand why people liked this. That was a pretty good comic, that original Harbinger trade.
The second incarnation after they were bought out by Acclaim, I think Fabian Nicieza, he was the editor in chief, and he tried to save it, but came a little too late because by then there had been the market contraction and a lot of stores closing, so the market conditions weren't there. Wizard was not willing to back them up then, because Wizard was more influent than people give them credit for.
They were like the one website on comics. If there was one website on comics these days, that's how influential they'd kind of be.
But they didn't really care about Acclaim Valiant,
right?
So
don't sleep. I'm trying to think.
But I know there was good stuff because Quantum and Woody came out only after Acclaim had bought them.
Was it what did I read from them? Neil Vokes and who was it? No, it wasn't Peter David. Who did Ninjak in that era? I think Neil Vokes drew it. And
I don't remember.
I can't remember who did it. A solid Marvel writer wrote it. But it was a pretty good book. I remember buying that one during that era.
I'm not sure Peter David was there. I can't remember because
I don't think it was Peter David. It was someone like him. Who was it?
Shooter wrote most of the stuff. David Lapham was
the
there.
Acclaim era one, so it was second version of Ninja. He was
very
much like Spider-Man.
Then I wouldn't know.
Yeah. Like I said, I remember Neil Vokes drew it, and it was pretty well drawn. Valiant Color 3D glasses, Valiant Vision. It may have been Kurt Busiek who wrote it with Neil Vokes. I can't remember, but it was a well done comic. I think I bought it for its 15 issues or however many came out.
I don't remember which Acclaim Valiant comics that I read. I know I picked up a bunch of them, but I did enjoy the early Valiant when it first started.
Yeah.
with their superhero stuff, because even
Mhm.
their major crossover had to deal with time travel, and that it was a fun read. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Then they had that one with Image, right? Did that one ever finish? Was that when Valiant went out of business? Deathmate?
It didn't go out of business. The crossover itself was disjointed. I'm not sure they lost money on it, but the stores who committed to it lost money on the last issues to come out.
Was the last issue really late or something?
Yeah, I think
They also
Image
did a
missed
bunch
one.
of like foil covers and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I lost money on that because I ended up buying from Dynamite Entertainment at the time was really heavy into doing stuff. I mean, they still are, but I remember if you bought all the Deathmate issues, you got Deathmate Black
Uh-huh.
as part of it, and it was like, okay, got them. They were all silver foil type covers, not silver, but different color foil covers, not well packed, and those foil stuff
Oh,
were did not take well to being shipped.
they're
And then the
delicate.
one, they were delicate, and then that Deathmate Black, you got one issue, but you had to
Uh-huh.
buy like 10 copies of each of the other issues to get that one issue, and it's like, well, that was money that it's like I know I still got a box of them somewhere.
Oh,
Where
so
it's
you
like
bought them as a fan
I bought them as a fan.
just to kind of get that Deathmate Black issue? And
Yep, yep.
wow.
Thinking that I could just resell all these,
Yeah.
you
They'll be
know,
worth
because
plenty of money. No
they'll be worth
problem.
money. And it's like, well, nope. It was like the condition was not good enough to like resell, and it's like, and even that, and I think what it was like all the books were fine. That they were fine. I could sell them, but I think it was the Deathmate Black itself was the one that ended up being damaged
That was the most
at the time.
damaged of the.
It's the most damaged. It's like this is useless to me.
Wow. I think I have some of those somewhere that I bought in the dollar box years later or wherever I got them from. All those Deathmates are free at one of my local shops. No one takes them. This did goblin. Wow. Yeah, I may have gotten mine free too. I'm not sure.
I think I want to say Deathmate Black might have been the first appearance of Gen 13, and that was like the only reason to get those books.
Ah.
Because everyone thought, oh, because I don't know if they introduced any other sets of characters, but that was like the first appearance of one of the teams, and that was like the only one worth anything. It's like,
I remember buying an issue of Gen 13 in the 90s and finding it very creepy because it was like this book. It was clearly aimed at teenagers, this book. And here I was a grown person. And it had made by grown people, but it had like sexy teenagers. It was like a book about sexy teenagers aimed at teenagers, made by grown people. And it was a little like, oh, this is kind of creepy somehow. So all these sexy teenagers hitting on each other. And I'm like, I shouldn't be reading this. I'm not sure they should be making, but it was just weird. It was like there was too much sexiness going on between the teenagers for me to be comfortable with as a grown adult. Speaking of which, Ed Piskor got in trouble.
Yep.
Say it ain't so, Ed.
I don't know. I don't get surprised at these things anymore.
He got in trouble for hitting on teenagers. Now he's not being accused of being a criminal, just being accused of being a creep.
Yeah.
But it's just like, we say it ain't so, Ed. We don't need this in cartoonist kayfabe.
The thing is, I noticed I found the Instagram that the girl who the girl had post-start in.
Right.
And I can see why, even without knowing her age, Piscor would be interested in it. It's got that outlaw quality that he likes to see in comics. In fact, the first image that pops out, okay, this makes Mike Diana look like a fill-in artist at Marvel. Yeah, it's that it goes that far. So I suppose that they would be a good match for each other if it wasn't for the age difference.
There we go.
Yeah. Overall, I suppose this confirms a few things about Piscor, because you notice how Piscor and Drug they present themselves in the videos, and Piscor has all that street gangsta image. The guy's he's a 40-year-old white guy.
Yeah.
Nobody, and you're acting like a gangster rapper from 1997.
Yeah.
Why?
He might be a little arrested in his development.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's the point. You kind of noticed that.
Yeah.
That's why they go after teenagers. They have some unfinished business.
Right. Something like that. It's nutty. All the world's a stage has made it. Creepy head is creepy. Surprises no one. Hopefully Jim Rugg distances himself business-wise.
Yeah, you already posted on Instagram that is cutting ties with Piscor professionally.
That's too bad. Like I just hate to see someone be that creepy.
Yeah. I mean, you go, oh man, that chick is hot. She looks like she's not very old, but okay, you saw it. Go away.
Yeah.
You don't talk to her.
Right.
And I was seeing one of my regular YouTubers that I watch. He doesn't usually talk about comic books. He says he used to read comic books when he was younger. He's more of a gamer. He does political content sometimes. But so he sort of commented on it by not going too deep. I guess he was told about it. He didn't check much because it's not his thing. But okay, and he said, I make my social media so that I don't have to interact with teenagers. Maybe if you don't tell me my age, I'll treat you like you're an adult, depending on how you talk.
Right.
But if you tell me your age and you're 15 or 16, yeah, we're done. This conversation is over.
That's normal.
Yeah, because it opens up the doors for even you can get into legal trouble just if you say something. Even if it's not sexually suggested, you say something, and you can the kid can claim that that he got depressed over it, and I'm suing the YouTuber because I'm suing because my kid got depressed when the YouTuber talked to him and over something he said, and now I have psychiatric bills and whatever.
Right. And it's really, really easy not to talk to teenagers who are strangers online because they don't want to talk to us old people.
Yeah,
it's like they're not gonna.
Well,
it's not like
they do
fight them. It's not like you have to not talk to them. They're not going to talk to you.
Yeah, sometimes they do because they want to appear adult. But here's the thing: if you're a teenager who wants to appear adult, don't actually reveal your age.
Right. It's kind of rare. I don't think I've ever had any real teenagers talk to me.
Yeah. It depends on the subject and whether the person's famous.
There is one teenager, I think, who I've talked to on YouTube. He's 24 now. Daniel Martz. I think I first started watching his YouTube videos about 8 years ago. He just turned 20. And I just used to, watch his YouTube videos along with him. And occasionally I'd tell him something about comics. That's about it. But I was like, wow, he's old now. But it's like, I'm personal. personal message and as they say, slip into their DMs as Ed was doing, Mr. Piss Scores. It's like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, that's the problem. Piscor kept talking to the girl, and if it's the opposite sex,
then you're really
in trouble. Yeah,
you're just playing with fire.
And Piscor just, I suppose he doesn't have the good sense.
Like you said, Arrested Development. There's something going on in his brain where there's unfinished business with 18-year-olds or something. Who knows? But I was sad to hear that. I was like, I don't want I don't watch cartoonist kayfabe. I haven't watched them in a while, but it's sad that they're, being destroyed like that because of
most of the interview
behavior.
Most of the interviews are good.
Yeah, they do a good job.
And I like the way they go through Wizard.
Yeah, they do a good job of introducing mainstream comic book fans to non-mainstream stuff. So that's what I always thought they did a good job at. So I'm sad to see that go away.
Yeah, we lost one. Speaking of losing people, we lost Robert Beerbohm.
Oh, that's right. Robert Beerbohm died. I was sad to see. I know a couple of weeks ago I mentioned he was he posted he was on hospice. So I always enjoyed reading his historical stuff. I don't think he had a vendetta against Stan Lee. I think he just was telling it like it is.
Yeah, he met Kirby in the 70s, which is when Kirby was angrier and still had energy.
Yep.
For himself. So it would be the time that he would complain the most about his working relationship with Stan Lee
being ripped off.
So Beerbohm took everything that Kirby said factually, and you can tell that there are a few things that even Kirby himself also exaggerated on his own side.
But there's the difference between exaggerating and lying.
Right. And Kirby, and Stan Lee lied.
Yeah.
And Kirby exaggerated.
I mean, we all know, we all have a friend who's a good storyteller. And you can tell when they exaggerate, but they don't lie. We all have a friend who lie. And there's a huge difference.
Yeah.
You can understand the truth through the story, but the lie is a lie.
Yeah.
Stan Lee straight up lied. I figured that out when I was a kid. Reading those origin books.
Yeah, but mostly losing one of the creators of what we understand is a comic shop.
Yeah.
It is a big loss for fans of comics history.
Right. And wish he'd written more.
Exactly.
His Comic Shop Wars book.
Look, I used to have. I think I still had it on 3 computers ago, but somehow one day I tried to open the file again. I remember that I couldn't open the file, and I didn't remember where I got it online originally. And of course, by that time, it's probably not in the same place anymore. It was a draft for the book, and it was well constructed in a way that it focused on the subject that it wanted to tell, which was the origins of the comic book direct market and its importance in making sure that comics got to their customers, not just the mainstream, but also all of the indies that showed up because they wouldn't have a place to be distributed otherwise. And it needed to be polished, but otherwise it had a good reading flow. Right. But then Beerbohm kept adding to it,
Right.
and delaying what was supposed to be the published product. And one day he shows up. I want to tell the story of the distribution of comic book history. So I'm beginning with pre-1939. It's already 800 pages. Bob, nobody wants to read 800 pages of comic book distribution from old Obadiah Old Buck to Action Comics #1. he was not cutting where he was supposed to, which is hard. That's why you need an editor.
Right.
Even if you say you don't need an editor, you do. And somebody to keep you focused on what's important and what you can sell.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody was going to buy I suppose 20 people would buy it.
Right. You and I
Maybe
would
not.
buy it.
Even I am not sure. I mean, I would buy a book
Oh,
about the
You'd buy.
the history. Yeah, I would buy a book that went back to 1847. I would, but I'm not going to buy an 800-page book that starts in 1847 and ends in 1939.
Okay.
It's completely missing the mark on the type of story that it's supposed to tell.
Mm-hmm.
There's no point in doing a multi-volume book about the history of comic book distribution. It has to be one book, and it can't be over 300 pages.
All right.
So hopefully somebody was working with them, and they have access to the material, and they can publish something posthumously or edit it down. I hope so. I mean, the idea was very interesting.
Contact his daughter. Say, hey, I'll edit it down.
I can edit it down. Yeah, definitely, I can.
Another book I got this week is The Sire.
Just one thing: his daughter was also not of good health.
Yeah,
even
that's right.
Before Bob got cancer.
I think she got better, though. He said
she did, but it was multiple operations, and
right. Couldn't. He couldn't finish the book because he was taking care of her. I remember at some time.
Yeah.
The Sire #5, Sire Lost in Time #5. This is the Mike Dolce book, who I know personally, used to play touch football with. Mm-hmm. And I thought this was the last issue, but there's going to be some more. This is the last issue of this storyline, but he said there's going to be an issue 6 and 7. This is the one that's a crossover with Mariano Nicieza's, who's this character? Phaser. Part of the War of the Independents. There's something, I think that's another universe back there even. So, and this is drawn by somebody named Sue Sherpa, right? Written by, cover it, pencils by Sue Sherpa, and I think Mike colors it right over the pencils. And I'm amazed that he's getting it out. I'm happy for Mike to get out. He wanted to do a comic, so he's getting out a comic. It's fun. I enjoy it. Not the greatest comic of all time, I'm going to tell you, but it's and also it continues into the War of the Independents, then comes back and wraps up the Sire story. But I'm okay not getting the other issue. You know, it's like it's kind of part of a big crossover, these last 2 issues, but it reads fine without reading the rest of the crossover, so I'm happy about that. And eventually, Sire comes back, and after the War of the Independents, he's got a new costume and doesn't know what's going on. Much like, Spider-Man coming back from Secret Wars with a new costume. It's got a 90s comic superhero feel, but not sort of tongue-in-cheek. Mm-hmm. So I enjoyed it. If you want a real sort of indie superhero book, The Sire, with a little amateurish quality to the art. But it's enjoyable. Let's see. Comic Crack is here. Evening all. SB Sketchbook. Howdy, fine gentlemen. Talking about how defiant teenagers can be, are we? Story of my life. 5 days a week from 8 to 5. Problem is, they're getting younger. My patience isn't. That reminds me of the John Sable logo aesthetic a bit. Oh yeah, I can see what you mean.
Yeah.
That Sire one.
It also reminds me of something from CrossGen.
Yeah.
Sigil?
Sigil or Sojourn, or there was one other S one. Scion.
Yeah.
Looks pretty good. Yeah, it's a decent decent indie book out there. Howdy, fun. Oh, his patience. He's losing his patience still. Yeah, I enjoy it. Like I picked it up because I know Mike from way back, and I'm liking it. Sometimes it's fun to pick up indie books from people you know. You pick up anything else, Wilson?
Yeah. So as part of this group, I had picked up Web of Spider-Man issue number 1.
Uh-huh.
And although I didn't read the stories, I was somewhat disappointed in it. Now, it has a Greg Capullo cover.
Okay, yeah, I remember seeing that one.
Which is fine. It's a fine cover. But I haven't read the full book. I had only gone through it. And the thing that I found weird about it is that I don't really know if the comic book is going to continue in this format. And what I mean is, here's Spider-Man pages drawn by John Romita Jr., who has his own book of Amazing Spider-Man. So I don't really know if this is just a Spider-Man book that has a combination of all the Spider-Man titles.
Oh, so that's a different artist and different story.
So different artist, different story.
Is it like a Spider-Man anthology book or not?
It feels like a Spider-Man anthology book. I do not know as of yet if these are original stories to this one book, or the fact that this particular story with Spider-Gwen says to be continued in Spider-Gwen number 1.
So it just might be a preview book.
So it might be a preview book, which isn't
annoying.
Anything bad. But again, to me, as I was kind of expecting a new Spider-Man book,
right.
Web of Spider-Man. I like the Web of Spider-Man title because that was when the first series of Web of Spider-Man came out with the Charles Vess cover.
Right.
For me, that was the first time I got to be able to buy a Spider-Man issue number 1 that was basically for me, for my generation of reading Spider-Man, because I had missed out on Amazing Spider-Man number 1, of course. That came out in the 60s. Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man number 1 came out in the 70s. So Web of Spider-Man was just there for me in the sense of, I finally get my Spider-Man number 1. And so it's like, I was kind of psyched to pick up a new Web of Spider-Man number 1, but it seems like to be an anthology book.
How much was that?
This was one of my lights blew out, so I can't really see this well. It is $7.99, $8.
To pay $8 for a preview book,
right? That could, and again, I don't know if this artwork is original for the book, or if the artwork is pulled from the comic books.
Right. That would be, if it's an anthology, that's fine. If it's a preview book with all the first 8 pages of all those comics, I would expect that to be, discounted, like being like an ad thing. But no, I don't know. They don't always do that these days.
Right, exactly. It even ends with Spider-Man 2099 story, which I thought, that's pretty neat, because again, I like the characters, I like the Spider-Man family, but again, to me, it's like, I am going to be really upset if I actually find the issues and go, so all you did was basically reprinted a book, but it wasn't really reprinted. You're just using the new material in one book, and because I'm used to these types of things being a giveaway.
Right, exactly. If it's a preview book, it shouldn't be $8.
Exactly.
SPPT. John Romita Jr., good old Marvel, spotlighting these young talents no one knows about. Well, being that it's like he's like the only one drawing for Marvel that I can name. They're all young talents to me because I don't know who any of them are.
Mm-hmm. And then one of the other books is a Amazing Spider-Man issue, which is another beautiful John Romita Jr. cover of Spider-Man in the rain,
Oh,
because
yeah.
John can draw weather.
Yeah.
No
He
matter
likes
what.
throwing that rain.
Superhero character in the rain is a lot of fun. Although the interior artwork does not look like John's.
Spider-Man
That's
fights the
because it's not.
rain.
So there's another artist on this. Let's see. Guest artist, Carmen Carnero?
No idea.
No idea. But again, some new kid drawing Spidey.
Probably 42 years old and from Europe. So I don't think Marvel hires anyone from the States who's.
Okay, Instagram, Carmen Carnero Art.
It's pretty art.
Yeah, not bad. For faces.
Talking heads, because that's what comic books are all about.
Yeah.
She's got a nice drawing of a duckling here. She is good.
Nice expressive Spider-Man.
Spider-Man in the woods, waving his hands around.
Most of it
like
takes place in Arkham Asylum. I mean, whatever the Marvel version of Arkham Asylum is.
So it's sort of Mark Bagley and Terry Dodson mixed together.
Peter and Mary Jane go visit Mary Jane's Aunt Anna in this asylum because at some point people were taking some sort of drug that made them go insane, because I think it was based off of some kind of mutant
And Sandman
DNA-based
shows up.
drug. Sandman does show up. The Sandman has an interesting story in this because he had turned himself in. There is something about him being sand, and that he gets every time he uses his powers. Most Sandman stories end with him fading off into like he would get extra sand from like a beach,
being turned to
and make
glass and
himself-
shattered.
right, and then he would break apart, and each
Yeah.
time that happened, he'd lose a little more of himself. So even though he would replace himself with whatever sand he could find, he's not fully whole, and that somehow in the storyline goes into like his mindset that he doesn't feel complete. And I found that to be interesting in itself,
okay.
is that he is not really Flint Marko either. He that was a name he made up, but he's losing his identity. And that's why he's in this place. And I found that in itself to be interesting, because sometimes they do make Sandman an interesting character.
Yeah, I've always
So-
generally him being a good guy, a bad guy,
That
not
guy,
quite known.
he was with the Wild Pack, so he was a superhero for a while. I always liked the stories when he teamed up with Ben Grimm,
Okay.
and they would have a beer together. It would just be one of those things like, is he truly a villain, or if it's a victim of circumstance and stuff like that. So to me, to read that, the little bit that I read of this issue, was like, that was interesting in itself. The rest of the issue was just dealing with Aunt Anne being in that facility.
Tit Goblin says there's a new JR Jr. cover I saw on the racks this week that looked really bad somehow. I couldn't place why, really. Daredevil versus Wolverine on the cover. Surprised because he's so good. Deadline, I guess. I did not see that one, so.
No, I haven't seen it as
Did you like it or not like it, Chris? Did it catch your eye because it was good or bad?
No, it was exactly what he said. It's very oddly not up to JR Jr. caliber.
Okay. It just caught your eye. You went,
Somebody's showing it. I went to the store today and somebody pulled it off the rack and was like, look at this. And then we just kind of sat there looking at it, wondering how it happened.
Deadlines. Deadlines. Is he even on that book? So if it was a, and here's the other thing, because I know recently people were up in arms with one of those cover by I think John Cassidy, and people did not like the cover that was used. But being that, working at Marvel, sometimes they'll have some artwork sitting in a drawer somewhere for years, and then off of a whim they'll go, "Hey, let's publish this one." And it could have very well been something like that too.
Yeah, who knows? Here's a book I didn't know was coming out. Otherwise, it would have been on my pull list. A new Goon series. Them That Don't Stay Dead. Dark Horse is publishing it by Eric Powell. And this one is actually in black and white.
Oh, okay.
I've seen the Goon in color in recent years, so I was surprised to see this one is in black and white. But it's a Goon Eric Powell story, so it's good. Or it's an Eric Powell Goon story, I should say. So it was good. I enjoyed it. I'll get the next 3 issues. The Kid with the Duck is back. And he's making zombies somehow. Or he's becoming a zombie or something. If you don't know, if you've never read the Goon before, there was this background character who was this little kid who carried around this dead duck. Let's see, there he is right there holding that hat. And then years later, he was revealed to be the main villain behind this plot. So he's been a villain ever since. The kid with the dead duck. But nice Eric Powell art. Wow, that guy can draw. You're a Goon fan, right, Chris?
I read it a lot for a while, and then it went away, and it comes back so sporadically. I have no idea what they do now.
Okay, I understand that.
But yeah, the initial run, I was on board all the way.
Right. I remember, like I said, I think you were buying Goon before I was. I think I was reading some of your issues on occasion. But yeah, like I said, I didn't even know that he's been publishing for the last, 10 years under his own Albatross books. So I was surprised to see that come out from Dark Horse. It's probably why I missed it. I wasn't looking closely at the Dark Horse section. As a matter of fact, it was Randy Gentile who pointed that one out to me when Randy and I now play a game on Wednesdays when we both teach on Wednesdays. So I go down at break to his class and we look through the comics that are coming out that week, and he tries to guess which ones I'm buying. And he watches my video on Instagram, so he sees them later on every week. So he's kind of caught on to most of them I'm buying, but not all of them. And he was like, "Oh, the Goon, are you getting that one?" I was like, "There's a Goon out this week? I don't think I have it on my pull list." So I was on the lookout for it. Luckily, my shop had a shelf copy. Let's see. Carmen Carreno is the regular Captain America artist in the last 2 years. The one not written by Straczynski. Okay.
Yep. She's from southern Spain. I haven't been able to find biographical information on her. So I don't know how old she is.
I knew she couldn't be
teenager. Teenager.
Yeah, don't talk to her.
Dagoon. Alice Dagoon.
Malaga, Spain. Nice place to visit, but you have to make sure you find the good food.
The good food.
Yeah, it's a tourist town. It's on the Mediterranean side of southern Spain, so beaches and hotels.
I was just reading a little article about Spain de-Arabifying its language many centuries ago. They tried to. They said Portugal did a better job of it. Taking the Arab words out of Spanish, because after being conquered, by the Moors for so long, they wanted to get rid of those.
Not necessarily. The moops, yeah,
The moops, yes.
exactly. We had to kick out the moops. That's not necessarily true.
It's
the
just some
de-
short article I read. I don't
yeah
even.
the Arabification of Portuguese happened much later,
Ah.
during after the Napoleonic invasions.
Well, maybe they got rid of some of it and then it came back. Who knows?
It was actually pretty easy to keep using Arab. There was a little bit of a lingua franca in the Iberian Peninsula during the Renaissance periods. The split between Portuguese and Spanish happened around the late 10th century. And then Portuguese emerged as a full language by the beginning of the 14th.
SBPT says, I think she was at the Comic-Con Portugal some years ago. Carmen Carreno, right?
Carnero.
Paolo.
I don't remember her, but okay. Comic-Con Portugal was last week, and I couldn't go because it was
too far away.
Too far away for me. And I would waste more money on transportation than I would on comics. But people who met Sten Sakai were very happy to meet him.
That's good.
Yeah, especially because Sten Sakai has no books in Portuguese. Also, there was. I wish they had recorded the interview with Daniel Henriques, who was the artist on Ronin book 2, on the modern Ronin book with Frank Miller, and he's going to write something. Spawn. He's going to write Spawn.
Oh, which Spawn?
Stan Sakai?
No, the Daniel Henriques, the Portuguese artist who worked with Frank Miller.
Oh.
Let's see. Another comic I got this week. Let's see if Chris has got this one. Savage Dragon, issue number 269. Another Eric Larson smash hit. It says up in the comics code. We got
Did you read it yet?
I did.
Does Mickey Mouse return?
He does. We got a big battle issue here against the Vicious Fishes.
The Vicious Fishes. I love
The
that name.
Vicious Fishes, who jump on land, try and get their revenge. And he's got one of these spider women who shoots. They're twins. They shoot webs out of their butt.
Oh, God damn it.
Because Eric Larson's, got to do that. And then the twist to the Vicious Fishes was, and they're now in San Francisco, by the way, so that's why they were on the shore. So Savage Dragon is, and the crew from San Francisco, this I forget their names, are fighting the Vicious Fishes, and Dragon is like, next time you might consider diplomacy. For what it's worth, I'm on your side. I care about the Iron Man. We should make more of an effort to clean up the oceans. And one of the Vicious Fishes is like, clean them up. We wouldn't exist without your atomic bomb tests and pollution. Your efforts to clean things up are thinning our ranks. We want more toxic waste, more radiation, more pollution. Our future depends on it.
That is amazing.
And he's like, I'll take it up with the heads of industry. So I found that funny.
That does sound funny. That book should be waiting for me at the comic book shop.
And then Mickey Mouse shows up again to feel up Savage Dragon's wife, much to her chagrin.
Oh boy.
So it was a good issue again. SOS West, the Vicious Fishes. Did you enjoy it, Chris?
I did. But it's,
did you get
I got my physical copies today. But yeah, I was telling you last time that Mickey's only getting started.
Yeah. BBT says we Portuguese are proud to say we're still 20% Moors.
Oh, given the geographical location of both sides of my family, I may be more than 20% more. I'm a real moop.
The moops. But yes, Savage Dragon continues to entertain after all these years. And I think that's because Eric Larson really tries to keep it interesting for himself.
The longest running Tijuana Bible in the comics industry.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose that it wouldn't be a one-off. Yeah, I mean, if you can use Mickey, don't just go for one joke.
Yeah, keep it going. Hey, what's his name? The original Daredevil has been a character in his comics for many years now.
Yeah. He killed the Daredevil's sidekicks horribly.
Right.
Did he kill the Legion boys or the Newsboys, whatever they were?
Right. The Newsboy Legion was someone else, right?
It was Kirby.
It was Kirby.
Man, I still know the because they took over the comic from Daredevil after superheroes fell out of fashion. I always forget their name. Little wise guys.
The little wise guy. Kid Goblin is still convinced that he and Portugal are related somehow. He and Paulo are related somehow.
We could be. Let's do a 23andMe.
Danielle had a long interview in national radio, Antenna 1, 2 weeks ago, Paulo. He is writing No Name Here. It's set on Spawn on Spawn universe and built on one specific character, the last victim of Billy Kincaid.
Interesting.
Yes, Spawn had one of those, like I said, I think I got it last week and I showed you guys. It had a character show up on the last page. And I was like, if I knew who that character was, this would be much more dramatic. Longtime Spawn fans may know that, but me, nope.
Ryan Otley just posted something about the Comic-Con Portugal.
Oh.
He loved it.
That's right. He was there. Ryan Otley, Comic-Con Portugal. I miss Invincible. That was a good book.
Never got to read it, but I am enjoying the cartoon show.
I couldn't make it through the first episode of the cartoon show because it just made me want to read the comic, and then I went and read the comic. I mean, I'm not saying it was bad or anything. I was just,
Oh, I was having a blast, and it's probably because I didn't read the series.
Right.
So for me, it's like I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the artwork. I'm enjoying the humor. So for me, it's like this is a fun show.
Yeah,
I like them both, and the cartoon's astonishingly faithful.
Yeah. It's good stuff. I know people were quite shocked the first season by the bloodbath that his father did.
That is quite a shock if you're not used to that in superhero comic books.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned before, that was shocking when I was reading Transformers. I wasn't expecting that much carnage of the humans. The robots, I didn't care. But with the humans, it's
the shock doesn't come from the shock doesn't come from the carnage, but it does come from the big reveal that Invincible's father is actually a villain.
Yeah.
And,
what?
Yeah, no. I suppose I would have done that a couple of years later in the comic.
Oh, he originally was going to do that. You don't know that story?
No.
Kirkman originally was going to do that. I think he said with issue 25. But the publisher or someone's like, you might not be around at issue 25 if you don't reveal that earlier. So that's why he did it in like issue 6. So that's why that reveal came soon. I think it was
Yeah.
a good idea.
But in retrospect, he thinks he should have done it. Well, no, he did it in issue 12, but he thinks
Was
in
it 12
retrospect he
even?
thinks, yeah, in retrospect he said 6 is where he should have done it.
Okay.
Because it is really the setup, like it's the biggest
Yeah,
piece of
yeah,
the
that's the
setup to
whole
like
setup
what
of the
this guy's
series.
journey is.
Yeah.
But if he had done it on 6, I don't think it would have come as such a big surprise because everything's still being set up.
Yeah.
I think by the 12 we were used to enough to the characters, so it did come off as surprising. But if we had gotten so used to him being a good guy, the reveal would have been more impactful if it had happened a year later.
It would have, but he had to move on in the story, I think, too.
Sure. The thing is, now you're expecting the big alien invasion. So anything that's not the big alien invasion, you're just filling up space.
He filled up space well in Invincible, I gotta say.
It
Like I
works
said, I
in the
enjoyed that
animated
series.
in the animated series. It works well. Like I'm not for me, it's like I've been enjoying what I'm getting, and I am surprised that I'm not getting the tropes that I'm assuming I'm going to get. And so that's what I like about it, because it's like thinking
That's
oh,
the
it's gonna
whole
go
that's the whole
this way.
premise of the book and everything is like it's like you think you're expecting something to happen because you've seen it dozens of times play out a certain way, and he always does it the opposite way, and it's always a surprise. You should see it coming.
Yeah, it's a good
But
surprise.
it's so ingrained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually, I think it was last year I reread the whole thing, except the end. I think I tailed off at like issue. I read like the first 8 or 9 volumes again, and then I was like, I don't want it to end, so I like didn't read the end ones.
The thing is, so they told him that he was not going to get to issue 25 if he didn't do the big reveal.
Right.
Okay, so it's kind of amazing how Kirkman goes from "we don't trust you at all" to "ooh, you're a big success. We want you to become a partner." That was pretty fast.
Yeah, The Walking Dead. That'll do it for you. Still amazed he canceled The Walking Dead.
Oh, and when he fooled the Image guys with the Walking Dead,
The aliens.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
there is an alien invasion. It's on my other comic.
What I don't. From
Oh,
what I was told, it wasn't the Image guys he fooled. It was the guys doing the to get it as a TV show.
No, I think it was before then.
Really?
I think the joke was before the TV show. I think it was the Image guy, because I think I heard that story long before there was a TV show. I'm not 100% sure. I think he did it around issue 50 or something. He actually made the alien issue as a special.
Okay.
Because
I heard it as it
books
was how he sold it to the.
No, that's how he sold it to Image, because zombie books weren't popular.
Right.
So he told him it was really, he was going to reveal that it was secretly an alien invasion book. And then he just never had the alien invasion.
Oh, okay.
But
Because I never read to the end of The Walking Dead. I kind of like dropped off from it.
Somewhere he did a special. I don't know when, where he told the alien invasion story.
And did they ever basically tell us what happened?
No. There's really no alien invasion in the story. There was just like a one-off special because of the legend.
Right. But did we get at least what happened to create the zombies?
No.
In the first place?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't interested in that.
Right.
Though I find it amazing.
Is that what Fear the Walking Dead is about?
Yeah, I don't know.
No, from what I understand, Fear of the Walking Dead is basically more of the beginning that we didn't get to see, because in The Walking Dead itself, we're viewing it through the eyes of the sheriff. So he wakes up and this has already happened.
Right.
I think Fear of is the week that it happens, when it starts. So you get how society started falling, how it was being affected in the area. where Walking Dead was like they're I don't know a month into it or something like that from
Yeah.
the sheriff's point of view.
If you remember, there was big controversy when it came out because at the same time that movie came out, where something similar happened. Was it 28 Days Later?
28 Days Later, I think was before.
But
any of
it was
that.
right around the same time, and the same thing happened where the guy woke up in a hospital, and the like
Right,
zombie apocalypse had already happened.
right.
People were going, "Oh, Robert Kirkman ripped that off from the movie," which he really didn't because he already had it in process, but
Right.
they just happened to came up with the same idea at the same time. But I remember too finding out, like when The Walking Dead first started, reading Jacob's first 2 issues, the most 2 read issues of The Walking Dead ever. And it starts off in Atlanta. And I was surprised he never brought them to the Center for Disease Control. I was like, why is he starting the story off in Atlanta if they don't go to the Center for Disease Control? And it wasn't until the TV show happened where they started it off in Atlanta and they went to the Center for the Disease Control that Robert Kirkman went, well, I just didn't know it was there. And I was like, what? All the TV shows and movies that happened in Atlanta because of the Center for Disease Control, he didn't know it existed. I was like, oh, that's why they never went there. Kirkman didn't know about it. I found that funny. Did you read Walking Dead to the end, Chris?
Yeah. Yes, I did.
Some great insight. Some great insight.
Well, and I liked it.
Andy liked it. And he did a cover or 2 for it. Or
I
homage.
thought it was good.
Why did you give up on it, Wilson?
It started when I didn't get into it when it first began,
Okay.
and when it was more of one of those things where it's like it started. I wasn't collecting those books. It didn't have any appeal for me at the time because in my mind, another zombie book, and it wasn't until Cryptozoic was doing a set of Walking Dead trading cards. And I was invited to do sketch cards. So it's like, all right, I need to know who these characters were. So I went to the comic book shop in Westchester, and I picked up, I think, 4 or 5 trade paperbacks. So I didn't even know it was running that long. That it was like it was popular. So I ended up picking up, I think, all the trade paperbacks, and I started reading them. It's like, these are actually pretty good. It's a pretty good story. So once I went through those trade paperbacks, it was like, oh, they're like really in the middle of stuff between the last trade paperback that I got and then the issues. And it's like, I might as well wait for the next trade paperback to come out. And then I just never went back looking.
Yeah, that's me too. When I say I'm going to wait for the trade, that means I'm never getting it.
Right, exactly. And then
you didn't get to read them. I wonder if Jacob
like a handful of issues.
I still wonder if Jacob still has those first 2 issues. Because Jacob Chabot had the first 2 issues of The Walking Dead in the Marvel bullpen. And everybody read his 2 issues. I've started picking it up with issue 3. Because I read 1 and 2 of his, and then I picked up issue 3. But it's like I at least 10 or 12 people read Walking Dead 1 and 2, Jacob's issues. So I'm like, they must be the most 2 read issues of Walking Dead 1 and 2 in the world. Did you read Jacob's, Chris?
I don't know because I ended up buying it myself. So I don't know if it was something we bought at the same time. And I had my own.
Do you
already.
still have your Walking Dead 1 and 2 then?
No.
Sold them off?
Dumped them. I didn't even make any money off of them.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal, Juice, brutal. Tit Goblin says, I like The Walking Dead, but the splash pages are the craziest rhythm I've come across in a book. Yeah, the double page spreads make no sense in The Walking Dead. They really don't. And I think, Chris, was it you who told me once that it's Kirkman who calls for the double page spreads, or was that somebody else who told me? Maybe it was Greg. But I always found they have the weirdest double page. I'm always like, why did he make a giant head a double page spread?
I think he thinks that that's dramatic.
Yeah, I mean, clearly he does.
And I think you're thinking like an artist,
right?
And you think a giant face is not interesting.
It's not dramatic either. I mean, his words are what's dramatic, but the image has to be.
It's the intensity of an extreme close up on, like, it's used in cinema all the time.
No, but the page doesn't actually get bigger in this. The close-ups are used in comics all the time, but not as double page spreads. To compare a double page spread to a close-up in the cinema, I don't think works.
Yeah. Well,
SBPT says the guy I worked for,
Robert Kirkman disagrees with you.
Yes, I know he does. Was a big Kirkman fan. I believe he convinced every single client of his to at least have one Kirkman title on their pull list. I never.
Well, that's why his shop closed.
Maybe that's why I got fired.
Well, the shop lasted less than 2 years, so.
Well, I would point out, Chris, that Tit Goblin and I both disagree with Robert Kirkman. So there's two against one.
That's why he'll never be as successful as you.
I know. He's got to be a failure his whole career.
Yeah.
Now you'll never be hired to work on Kirkman's books.
Wonder what Charlie Adler's going to do next. That last book he did was really good.
It's been years. Like, what's he been doing?
No, he just finished one. What was the name of it? 12 issues with. I can't remember. Cy Spurrier wrote it. All of a sudden, I can't remember the name of it. But it was really he was killing it on it. It was the best Charlie Adler artwork I'd seen. Very, very nice. Oh, I can't remember the name of it. Oh well. Got any more comics for us, Wilson?
Yeah, so I have the next issue of Skybound's Transformer.
Oh, there we go. Is that the last Daniel Warren Johnson issue?
I don't think so.
What issue number is that?
6.
Six.
Six.
I think he's only.
What number he's supposed to be leaving.
I think he's only doing that first story arc.
His name is on the next issue, so as far as I'm aware of, he's still doing them. So,
Damn them all. That's the name of that Charlie Adler one. 62 Lefty Blues just said. So that's some really nice Charlie Adler artwork in Damn Them All. Some really nice. What's his name? Daniel Warren Johnson artwork. Is he doing his own lettering? Those sound effects, at least, they look like they're drawn into the book.
It says Russ Wooton is doing the lettering.
Okay.
So it's chance, but you never know. There could be a chance.
Yeah, that he's drawing some of those in.
Here, this boom.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess is within the artwork.
Right.
But something
POW
like
might
POW
not be.
is not. This particular boom is not.
Right. So maybe he occasionally draws one in.
Yeah. So I haven't read this issue yet, but it looks like Devastator has popped up. And I mentioned it before. I really do like this guy's art with how scratchy it is.
Yeah.
It kind of gives you a movement in the art.
And he's very good at getting volume in the Transformers.
Yes. And even simple coloring like this, I think is really cool.
It doesn't need lots of modeling because the inking is taking care of all that.
Yes. So the characters look three-dimensional.
Right.
And again, you do not need all that much color. This kind of
Right.
reminds me of like how Michael Golden would color his comics.
Yeah.
When he did Transformers issues too, or at
Cut
least covers.
color, as Michael always said.
Covers, yes.
That looks nice.
And
I was thinking about picking up the trade just for the artwork.
Here's the cover to the next issue. So he's credited on the cover.
Okay, so maybe he's doing more.
So whatever the story or the arc may not be over yet.
Right.
And then
Maybe it's 8 or 12.
And again, as part of the Skybound Energon universe, picked up this issue of G.I. Joe. That's
G.I. Joe. Let's go solo again. So he's
G.I. Joe is sometimes
that's the Larry Hama written book.
Yes.
Cobra Commander.
Nice
so
cover.
G.I. Joe, a real American hero.
Pretty nice.
Now,
like
I am not too sure when the time period goes by because it is supposed to be in the same Transformers universe.
Okay.
But I think their current story arc is that Serpentor and Dr. Mindbender blew up this serpent bomb on Cobra Island that's mutating people, or at least mutating people on the island. And the Joes are dealing with that, as well as Cobra Commander kind of basically trying to get back in charge. So that's pretty much it in the I have not picked up any of the other Skybound stuff that's connected to it.
Void, what's that one?
Void Rivals.
Void Rivals.
Cobra Commander and Duke each has their own issues. I don't know if they're one-shots or ongoing stories. I know Void Rivals is ongoing, but I do not know about the other ones. And I would imagine
Duke is
Void
ongoing,
Rivals,
Cobra Commander is ongoing.
You reading any of them, Chris?
Yeah, I'm reading all of them. They're all ongoing.
Reading all of them.
I mean, they might be miniseries at some point once they move on. But yeah, Cobra Commander and Duke are like each on issue 3 or something.
As far as we know, they're ongoing until they tell us they're a miniseries.
right?
Because that's what they do nowadays.
Or they don't tell you at all.
Yeah.
There's just no more comics after number 4.
And since right now the comic book shop, only thing that exists really are 80s comics. So you have I picked up Thundercats issue 1 and 2. They made choices for the covers. So issue 1, the one that I picked up because it was the most not normal cover. It's the most, even though all the covers they had were alternate covers, this was the most reasonable price one, which is an unfinished Rob Liefeld cover. So it starts the coloring and then the colorist gave up. I don't know. That was just the way the covers are.
Special in process cover.
And they had made, I didn't do a count, but these are all the covers to just issue 1.
Whoa. That's a few covers for issue 1.
There's more.
Them's a lot of covers.
Second printing of the covers. So there's definitely a lot. Sorry, I missed one of the 2-pagers.
Oh.
So
holy cow.
I'm not going to sit here and count them.
Crikey.
But it starts on this 2-page. It goes to this 2-page.
Wow.
And then it ends on the 5th page. 5 pages of covers. And sadly, when I went to the comic book shop, this was the one that ended up picking it up because this was the only one that was basically a reasonable price. So I ended
62
up picking
Lefty Blue says that the double secret probation variant cover.
and not a single cover with flamingos or dolphins.
Wow. SPPT said you bought the Holy Grail, Rob's cover.
Uh-huh. And then here's the cover to issue 2.
Uh-huh.
And so far, I did not like the artwork is pretty.
Yeah.
I did not like the designs on some of the characters.
Oh.
Again, not being a purist or whatever, to me, it's like the characters mostly look like themselves, but they don't. So Wally Kit looks correct. Wally Cat does not. And for some odd reason, they gave, let's see if I could find, if he's in this issue, he might be in the other issue. They gave Tigra a mustache kind of a thing. He has like some kind of old-timey kind
Right
of
in the middle.
mustache. And there might be a better version of it in here. And I don't know why. To me, it's just it's an ugly mustache.
Ah,
It's
look
not
at
like-
that.
Yeah.
Connects
you know,
right to
but-
the sideburns.
It
He's
connects right to
sophisticated.
it. And to me, it's like I don't know why. The characters are designed in such a way in general that you can't mix them up.
Right.
You know, I don't know why they did that. I don't.
Someone just thought it was a cool idea. That's
Yeah.
all.
And what's funny is like he doesn't look that way on the covers.
That's weird.
You know, when I picked up the cover, here he is on the cover. Even Rob did it correctly.
Look at that.
Yeah.
They look like the characters they're supposed to be. Again, I'm nitpicking at that point. The artwork is good. Can't tell you anything about the story because I haven't read it yet. But again, nostalgia hits hard. And it's like they're safe comics, I guess you could say in that way.
Right. Monstrous has hit issue 50.
Nice.
That is a lot of issues from Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda.
Oh, it is. It is. Yeah.
And it's good. It's been good all this time. I've enjoyed it. Last issue, we had a little time jump after our main characters have been on some weird prison planet for a while. And it's just lots of catching us up back on whatever Earth they're on and the war that has moved on. And it's just moving fast and a lot of fun. This issue, they're in the court of the sea. So they're underwater with these guys. Let me show you them. Who are trying to decide if they want to help them in the war or not. And our main character has lost her monster. And the cat characters are all plotting things, and other monsters show up. And I just find it amazing that Monstrous is on issue 50. You know, I've been buying it since issue 1. And it's kept me entertained all this time. So how few comics make it to issue 50 these days? So that's kind of amazing. And let's see, another comic I got. This was The Six Fingers issue 2. Who's doing this? Dan Waters is the writer. Sumit Kumar is the artist. Lee Lowridge is the colorist. Aditya Bidikar is the letterer. And this is the one that I'm told that there's another one called The Hand that is the same story told from the point of view of the cop. And this is told from the point of view of the killer. And it's well done. I just enjoy it. There's weird stuff going on. But I think what's going on is, as we find out more stuff in this issue, the killer doesn't know he's the killer. So I think there's some sort of spirit, some sort of evil demon taking over him and making him kill. And I think this evil demon has taken over before. What is it? The one-hand killer. So I think this one-hand killer, and they think he's is really some sort of demon possession. And the original one-hand killer, I think, is in jail but has no memory of killing. So I don't think this guy has any memory of killing either. He's trying to figure out. This is him trying to figure out what's going on, the killer, and he doesn't know. So it's well done and interesting. I like the artwork. I like the writing, and a pretty good book. And you know what? I don't need to read the other one. I'm okay just reading this one. This part that and I can't remember. Ram V is writing the other one. I can't remember why, but I'm not a fan of Ram V's writing. It could just be because I don't like his name. It's too silly.
It's not. Rem V is short for his real name.
I know it is.
And
I
he
know
has
it
one
is. But in
he
my
has one of
brain,
those-
somehow it seems silly.
he has one of those long Indian names that
that
you can pronounce in the United States.
Right. I think it's really. I think it's really because I've read some stuff by him before, and I can't remember any of it. So I don't remember why I see Ram V on a book and don't buy it. It's weird. It's like maybe I'll have to try some of his writing again someday, because I know I've read his stuff in the past, but not enough of it to make me buy it. As a matter of fact, it made me. But though I was actually confusing him with Simon Spurrier when I was thinking of Damn Them All, but so maybe I'm blaming him for Simon Spurrier's sins. I don't know. The Many Deaths of Layla Starr and Rare Flowers. Yeah, I think I read one issue of The Many Deaths of Layla Starr, and it was just like, eh. Did Ram V write that one too?
Yeah.
Okay. That may have been the one that turned me off to him, but I didn't hate it. I was just kind of like, eh. I didn't think it was very good. I can't remember if I bought one or two issues of it.
And the last set of books that I have here from the pile
Let's see what you got.
are, because nostalgia hits hard. Secret Wars.
Ooh.
I picked up the facsimiles of issues 2 and 3.
Okay.
I didn't pick up 1, so I need to track that one down. Or maybe I
Right.
did, and I just didn't find it in the pile. But here's 2 and 3. I am picking them up since they're coming out monthly, so I
Right.
think that's just a lot of fun because I remember
Yeah.
picking them up the first time. I think I started the series with issue 4, was the first one I picked up off the rack, and then I went
Mhm.
back and I found the other ones to complete the set. Beautiful Mike Zeck covers.
Yeah, I was just saying those are some pretty nice covers there.
Yeah, so it's like a nice classic all headshot covers.
Right. And a nice battle cover for the second one that you just don't
And,
see
yeah,
anymore.
it's Spider-Man versus the X-Men, and I remember so many people were upset with this issue, yelling, "Spider-Man can't beat the X-Men," and it's like, oh no, it happened. It's in the book. They show how he did it because it was a blitz attack. You couldn't you couldn't sneak up on them. It was no, he did sneak up on it. What I meant was that he attacked fast and ran away, so that's why he was able to take
Right.
on the X-Men. And again,
But he
beautiful Mike
didn't
Zeck
beat the
artwork.
X-Men. He ran away from them.
Right. He beat them. I counted as beating them. Look at that. He just swats Wolverine and the rest of them. So and this whole thing with Nightcrawler was actually pretty cool. So for me, it was great. And what's funny in this also is an ad of a book that I always wanted to get, which was to get your free Spider-Man comic book with mail-in
Ooh.
proof of purchase from Oreo's Cookies.
I don't remember that at all.
And it was basically a reprint of because it's on the cover. It's a Marvel
Yeah.
Tales book, and I don't know if it has an issue number 1 on it or if it was a. Let me get my glasses. I'm
Special
sitting here.
Oreo cover. I have
Special
not
cover
seen
on
that
the-
one on anyone's pull list.
No, it's hard for me to tell what issue number that is. It's also tiny. It looks like it's the regular issue, 131, I think it is.
Oh, okay.
So it's basically a regular book, but it has like the Doctor Strange story at the back of it. And what was funny is I was picking up Marvel Tales, and I was waiting to get that issue because it's the origin of Spider-Man. I don't think I actually read like from the actual issue. The story was
Right.
retold many times, but to
Yeah.
actually read the issue. So I remember seeing this ad, but again, not knowing really how these types of things work. When I was
Right.
13, it's like, all right, I need to get pack of Oreos. Okay, eventually mom's going to buy some Oreo cookies. Never bought them. It wasn't in the rotation. And it was like one of those things. I think I eventually got the issues, but not necessarily the Oreo cookie one.
Yeah.
But I did have the one that was done by AIM, toothpaste. I eventually did get that issue of Spider-Man.
Huh.
I think
That's
Dr. Octopus
BPQ.
had a toothache or something like that.
Says we paid for 7 pages of variants. I also fell into that trap. I got the Ivan Tao cover. Not happy with the writing. So dull. That's the Thundercats. He's talking about that you were shown before, I think. It's not Secret Wars.
No, Secret Wars is written by Jim Shooter. So Thundercats here it says
That the one he was talking about?
whose name did he say?
Oh, he said he got the Ivan Tao cover, but then he was not happy with the
okay.
writing.
Okay, so then it's
I thought you said you weren't a fan of the Thundercats writing either.
Yeah, the little I read of it, I have to sit down and read it again, but the little I read of it while I was flipping through it, it was like it's a setup story that's still a lot different than I remember it. And then at the same time, again, nitpicking. They're introducing a character that did not appear in the first run of the Thundercat series. It was near the tail end, and it's like, oh, you're introducing her now? That's weird. But there's so many tropes that like I know exactly where this is going to go to, and that she's going to be a bad guy. And sure enough, she's a bad guy because at the end it's like, Mumra in the background, her eyes are glowing, and it's like, gee, that was just way too quickly, way too soon. You saw that coming a mile away.
The last comic I got this week is Local Man, which you can barely read up there. Bad Girls.
Nice.
So this is a one-shot tie-in. And the basic concept of Local Man is that he's a superhero who was on like a 90s type superhero team, but he got disgraced and had to go back to his hometown. So they flash back and tell these image 90s type stories every now and then and how it ties into his present. So this one ties in with his girlfriend who he left back in his hometown, who's had some tie-in with some secret project that had to do with the superheroes. And it turns out she knew some of these bad girl superheroes from his super team. So it's like what's weird about that? It was a nice one shot. It's got these nice, cards in the back that tell you who all the bad girl superheroes were in the 90s. And what confused me though, this one has been by, it says story and art by Tim Seeley and Tony Fleece, once again, FLEECS. And I had known Tim Seeley as a writer, but he was also drawing some of the backups in these. And I think Tony Fleece was drawing the main story. But then, like in this one, in Feral, Tony Fleece is the writer. Just the writer, no art. So I'm like, is he the artist on this? Or I think Tony Fleece is a writer-artist, but he doesn't always write what he draws. I was confused by it. Oh, there's a little Witchblade for you. Yeah. They give you a flashback to all the bad girl. Oh, one of the stories they refer to in here that was kind of neat was this villain who called herself the Sixth. which was short for the sixth extinction. She wanted to make all people extinct. And, she fought them a few times until one of her plans came to fruition, which was to make all the men on Earth disappear. So that's what all of a sudden, all the men on Earth disappeared. And like only women were left. And they were kind of like, oh, we got to get the men back. But then after a few months, they were like, maybe we don't have to. But then something happened and they all go. I found that funny. They were like, we don't know how to do this. We don't know how to get them all back. We'll make do. Because the world became peaceful. So it was a good story. And it ties into the ongoing story. And Local Man's been a good series. Yeah, what do you say? Yeah. That art is an homage to something Rob Studio did in the 90s when all the Macho Man characters turned into women. That's funny. Yeah, it's been a good... They obviously grew up on those 90s comics, these creators.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely a love letter to them in that.
Yeah.
And then the last book that I'll showcase is the Monsterverse, the comic book from Legendary Comics, because they do have a set of books. And this is for the prequel to the movie tie-in of Godzilla X Kong. And it's basically letting you know where the monsters are right before that movie happens. And Kong's living in his new kingdom under Earth. And Godzilla is going around taking care of the monsters that are on Earth, on Earth proper, I guess, for lack of a better term. So it's basically kind of introducing you to where some of these characters are. I forget the name, but this character was in the Godzilla vs. Kong first movie. So, and again, it's one of those things where it's like, all right, here's where people are. It's because it's kind of drawn real worldish. The monsters look kind of cool. Other stuff looks, for lack of a better term, a little boring because they make it so real world. But I like the coloring in it. The artwork it's not bad. Again, it's one of those things where you get a nice little flashback here. The main character you're following loses family during the first Godzilla attack.
You know what it is? So many stories these days are told in corporate environments that the art, like the background artwork, can be just so dull. It's like these, it's in a lab, it's in some corporate, because the villains are corporate, so it's in some corporate environment. So sometimes, the illustrations are nice. It's just kind of like, they're in a room.
Yes.
And not a well-decorated room. We did 62 Lifty Brews. We did not read Rip and Slab this week. We'll have to save it for next week.
Yeah.
We're too busy talking about comics this week. Rob was ahead of his time. He was.
Completely. And what I do like about the story, it gives you some stuff of what's going on. And it kind of has that typical ending of they're setting it up and it's like, follow the rest of it in the movie. And I kind of like that. So it has, Godzilla facing off with one of the monsters. And before they get the clash, it's like, because I think he's in London. Not London, sorry, in Rome.
It gets you excited for the movie?
Catch it on the show. It gets you excited for it.
So I guess as long as you know that going in, it's a good thing.
Yeah, the other ones are set up that way, so I'm kind of used to that format for when Legendary does their own comics.
All right. Anybody have any final words before we sign off?
Nope.
Keep your feet on the ground and your ankles above them. Nothing.
Chris with some words of wisdom. All right. Well, everybody have a good week out there. It was fun talking to everyone as always.
Bye.
Hold on, we got to give you some balloons before you go.
Oh yeah.
There we go. I always like the balloons. All right. Everybody have a good week out there. We'll catch you next time.
Take
See
care,
ya.
everybody.